you were considering merging the United States Postal Service with the Commerce Department. Can you elaborate on if this is something you're considering?
Well, we want to have a post office that works well and doesn't lose massive amounts of money. And we're thinking about doing that, and it'll be a form of a merger, but it'll remain the Postal Service, and I think it'll operate a lot better than it has been over the years. It's been just a tremendous loser for this country. Tremendous amounts of money are being lost, and we think we can do something that'll be very good and keep it a very similar way, but whether it's a merger or just using some of the very talented people that we have elsewhere so it doesn't lose so much. It's losing a tremendous amount of money.
Letter carriers say they've been working for more than 500 days without a contract, and today they made their voices heard on the streets of
USPS failed to protect Eugene Gates and others.
Can't take it no more.
Mail carrier robbed at gunpoint.
Police are targeting these mail carriers for their universal keys.
Nearly 1,200 reported attacks and other assaults on postal workers just last year alone.
Legal disclaimer. Hold on. Hold on. We got to throw this up. Next generation carriers and guests are individual union members speaking in a personal capacity, and they do not represent the views of the NALC, the United States Postal Service, or any other entity that is spoken on this program. My name is John Murphy. I am one of the co-hosts of Next Generation Podcast. We strongly encourage you to share this episode with all your coworkers. I'm going to introduce one of the speakers right now as Paul. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Paul Belanger. I'm the president of Branch 44 Merge, New Hampshire. Great to be on with you guys again. How's everyone doing?
Good, and you?
Good. So I guess we're here to talk about, there was an emergency meeting tonight with President Renfroe with the presidents of first the Eastern United States and right now the Western United States is going on. Basically, there's a lot of talk about the potential executive orders that are coming down the pike, possibly merging with I keep looking off, guys. I'm looking at some notes I took, so I'm not being rude, but possible talks of merging with the Department of Commerce, and maybe that's a path down the road to privatization. I'm not sure. Obviously, this has a lot of us worried. The other half of this meeting, well, let me finish first by saying that there's going to be some marches. I think President Renfroe has arranged for something in Washington on Monday. Short notice for a lot of us, and as usual, a lot of us can't be there because we're actually working. But the other half of the conversation is what I really wanted to focus on is because of these looming potential executive orders and a general political climate that I guess is causing some apprehension, and it is. I'm not disagreeing with that. But the Executive Council has voted, and I'm not sure what the vote was. They wouldn't disclose that, to move our tentative agreement arbitration into the expedited panel, which means that we are going to only discuss the financial aspect of our contract. The rest of it is either going to be left alone or it's going to be negotiated based on agreements that the Postal Service and the union can make. So to me, this is exactly what the Doug Tolino letter said that we all thought wasn't real. It looks like that there's going to be some agreements made behind closed doors. And I saw a lot of comments where people were saying that the financial package was something that we didn't like, but it wasn't the most important thing. The temporary workforce was a big thing. The diet colas, the lower starting wages, the reduced fixed office standards, all of these things, the gutting of Article 8, all of these things were important to letter carriers. And it looks now like there's going to be some agreements made outside of the arbitration process. And this is exactly what myself and a lot of people were afraid of. We wanted the whole thing to go to arbitration. I know when I voted this down, I was upset about a lot of things. The financial package wasn't really the biggest issue to me because I'm a senior carrier. I'm kind of doing okay. I mean, a lot of people starting out are having a much harder time. But some of the work standards that have been changed, some of the overtime rules that have been changed, just the fact that we're still having a non-career workforce, the fact that we're kind of merging to a pay table that's not what we started out at. A lot of this, I think, is going the wrong way. And I think that bargaining behind closed doors is exactly what we didn't want to happen. The argument was made that the reason we're doing this is because if we don't have a tentative agreement signed and something happens politically, we're in a much weaker position than if we had an actual agreement signed. But I think that's a bullshit argument, to be honest with you. And I put the question on President Renfroe's his Zoom meeting, and he actually answered it, because I said, if we have a tentative agreement that's still binding right now, because it is, our previous agreement is still binding, what does it matter if we don't have a new one signed? It doesn't put us in a weaker position. Like, for instance, let's say someone came down and said, we're merging with the Department of Commerce, so we're not going to let you negotiate a contract, which is ridiculous. But if they did that, we already have a contract in place. So it doesn't matter if we rush and do something that's not good for us, or hold on to what we have and bargain in a precise and measured way for what we really want. I think what the argument was is that if we put the non-financial issues on the table, like the COLAs, like the non-career workforce, that possibly an expedited arbitrator might say, we're going to take those things in exchange for a higher pay rate. So we would lose them in a negotiation. But I mean, what a chicken shit answer that is. So we're going to give them away instead of letting them be bargained away. I mean, it's beyond comprehension for me that we're still not willing to fight, and Renfroe still doesn't understand that we want to fight. I mean, they're putting these red T-shirts on, and they might as well be a fucking clown outfit. I mean, if we're not willing to fight because of the political climate, well, I mean, it's going to be one thing or another thing. You know, I mean, before it was because the post office was losing money. Now it's because there could be an executive order. Tomorrow it might be because I don't know. Maybe Renfroe's putting in for a job as postmaster general, and he doesn't want to ruin his chances. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I mean, you can't put on a red T-shirt and say "fight like hell" when you're going to run like hell. It's beyond me. I mean, what's your take on this, James? I mean, you were at the meeting. I know. I know a lot of people are saying that you know, some of the stuff I posted just now on Facebook they didn't agree with, but I think that's pretty much what it was. Is that he said he didn't want the other items on the negotiating table because we could actually lose them in a bargaining effect.
So, my name's James Cohen. I'm president of Branch 764, Dedham, Massachusetts, 18-year letter carrier, co-host on this podcast. So yeah, Paul, what you're saying, my impression was that yes, part of the expedited process too was to just do the financials and not bog up the process with the other parts of it, to get the financials done quick. He stated that the post office was in agreement on this. It was framed in a way that the post office is in agreement not because it benefits them fully, but because of the same situation of we're stronger as a cohesive unit with a new contract out. My concerns with that is I believe we've seen across the country that there were unions that had new contracts, government ones, that they got rid of, basically. I believe Trump had said we're not going to honor that contract.
So what's the difference?
Yeah. Now, in regards to the other parts he was talking about, I will say this. I think we all understand that in general, we're in a fight for our lives. Outside of the contract, we're in a fight there. But this whole thing with the idea of merging with the Commerce, Department of Commerce is not good. And the overall generalization idea that was given was that they'll come in, they'll fire the executive staff, they'll get rid of all upper management, move us to the Department of Commerce, which then gives Trump full control of the post office, and at some point sell us our profitable parts off bit by bit to Amazon, FedEx, and UPS. The non-profitable areas would then, they would have to pay for service. More rural areas would have to pay if they would like to have mail service. I've been here 18 years. This is so far the most viable threat I've seen. We've all heard, hey, privatization's coming. I've been hearing it for 18 years, but I've never seen it to the point where we actually have a definitive plan of looking at privatizing.
James, what's your thought on? I mean, I think it would have to go through a constitutional process, or if it was an executive order, I think it would face a constitutional challenge. Would you agree on that?
Yes, it would. My concern is what happens in the situation of like the labor board, where they had fired those people on the labor board, and now they're fighting it in courts to see if it's legal. From my understanding, those people are still not working. So is this a situation where he does something and they start going through that process while we're fighting it in the courts? And while we're fighting it in the courts, we're still going through that process. Either way, this is a situation where they had Renfroe had said they will be coming out and supporting local rallies. That is something that a lot of us in these different states have been pushing already, and that they're going to actually support it. It is a huge step on their ends. They said contact your MBA offices. They're supporting rallies. This Monday rally, again, it sucks. It's at 1:00. I mean, how many of us are going to be there? They're claiming.
I know. They had another one that was scheduled for, I think, March 23rd too, and they changed that one March 25th. So what's the point? A Tuesday rally, I mean,
so it was going to be Sunday, March 23rd. Which
Sunday? No, no, they had mentioned Monday. I mean, the Tuesday.
Yeah, now it's Tuesday. Now it's back to Monday. So it's the 24th now. It was
but they were talking doing one March 25th when everybody was coming out and saying the 23rd. And was discussing March 25th.
No, they've changed it 3 times now.
Have they really?
I thought the 24th. I thought the 24th was the February one, which is just this Monday coming.
Yeah.
Oh, there is.
They've been bouncing around so much. But the thing is, their logic is get people in front of these state houses, these state buildings, while they're there. Unfortunately, my concern is I don't think it matters if they're there. He even said himself, the Senate probably won't be there and will be coming in later if we're still out there. Isn't the point to get us in the press? Fuck the Senate, fuck the House, fuck having them. If we have the press on our side, that is the main thing that we're going for. So why wouldn't 100%. You do a way to get all of us there? Do it on a Sunday where every single one of us can attend, and you put 1,000 fucking people at the Boston Common. You throw them in every single fucking city town hall you can.
I'm telling you, I had
going up and down the street.
I had 3 vans rented to go on the 23rd. On the 23rd, when it was the 23rd in March on a Sunday. Now I had nobody that can go on the 25th. Nobody can go on a Tuesday. I mean, we're a 7-hour, 8-hour drive. That means you're taking 2 days off from work.
So I will tell you, in Boston, we are working on one still for the 23rd.
Yeah, and I would do that with you guys. I'd get together. I mean,
that is something we need everybody, and anybody who's listening, contact your presidents, contact the NBA. Paul has been here. You remember the Preserve the 6-Day rally. There was the 97 harder work, harder pay rallies. We used to have these big rallies, and we drew attention. I was just starting out when that 6-day rally happened in the Boston Common, and it was huge news. We're still 72% of the American public still supports the post office. That's a huge majority. We need to be getting out to them, and we need to get out to the ones that don't support us and explain that the mailing industry is a $1.55 trillion industry, that we hold 70% of that business. 44% of the mail in the whole world goes through the USPS. We're still a very viable, important part of this country. And we need to remind the American public of that and really get involved.
I think
we're fighting a battle on 2 fronts.
I think the problem is we've got two fights. You're right. We've got 2 fights right now. We've got the fight for our contract and the fight against privatization. But I don't think we should be giving up one for the other, to be honest with you. I mean, if we prolonged our contract fight and it lasts 4, 5, 6 months, that gives us time to concentrate on the privatization fight. Why put them both in the same basket and try to resolve one really quickly and do what's not good for carriers just to get this out of the way so we can? I don't agree.
And another thing, Paul, that I was thinking throughout this is he is discussing about how the NALC has had a feeling this was brewing, and the post office at the same time. So this past 15 days, was that fake?
Yeah,
if
no
they
shit.
knew this was brewing, and they were going to be planning on going to expedited, did they know this whole 15 days was fake?
And there's another 15 days of interest we lose on our money.
So
yes, it is.
What happened? If we all knew this was coming, and he had said that this Fight Like Hell rally was started before, the reason they started this, what was it, almost 2 or 3 weeks ago they started this rally?
Something like that.
As soon as the TA came out. Yeah.
They knew this was coming down, so they started the rally in advance to get the wheels rolling. The timeline shows that they would have known that this was coming down the hill before the 15-day negotiations.
Right.
So
why
what
wait
happened during those
15 days and then rush it? It doesn't make any sense.
And if the post office is in interest of getting this done fast, they offered us 1.3, 1.7, 1.9, take away 1,000 off the top step and only remove one step instead of two steps. PTF's actually lost $1 in this new deal compared to the deal before.
I mean, who's in a really good position right now is the post office. I mean, putting aside the privatization concerns, as far as the contract goes, right now they know that we don't want anything on the table except for the financial, so they can bargain that stuff as hard as they want behind the scenes. Maybe they're going to say everyone gets a Diet Cola now, and that's going to be so that we don't put that on the table for you, because you don't want that on the table. You don't want to lose your financial package. So now we're going to be held hostage by our own fucking fear.
Mm-hmm. And so he equated this to the 1978 arbitration, where they did expedited. I would be interested in seeing what we got out of that one. How did the 1978 expedited negotiations go?
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that we had this much going on behind the scenes that's going to be conceded by us either.
And that is true. And along with what you were saying about fighting two battles, we are 100% fighting two battles. Let alone we got a new contract and we're gone. Well, then that fight for that contract was nothing. However, if we give up the fight for the contract, we're still in the same position we've been in. How many people are going to be able to stay here?
Right, right.
We are
what kind
really
of fight? I mean, if the post office survives and they're paying us all $22 an hour, it's not going to survive anyways. What's the point?
Yeah, and honestly, this is a situation where we need to mobilize every single member on both fronts and both fights, and really educate our people, get them out on the streets, get them fighting. All these groups need to work together. I'd mentioned in the meeting, if Renfroe he mentioned going on the NALC podcast. My concern with that is not many people listen to that podcast. I had mentioned, would he be willing to come on any of the other podcasts? He has said he would be willing to come on other podcasts. I tried to message him. However, his Facebook Messenger is blocking. At least
he's probably a little busy. Probably a little busy right now.
So I'm working down to find an email address to send him an invitation to try to see if he'll come on here. Because my view on this isn't, when it comes to this rallies and everything going on besides the contract, every piece has to be together fighting for this. And this is the situation of what is next move.
And I think, James, you had a perfectly, you hit the nail right on the head. Whether or not we've got a contract is not going to really make a difference. So why are we rushing? I mean, he could, if Trump's going to abolish a contract, he'll abolish the old one we have, the new one we have. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't. Renfroe was saying it puts us in a weaker position not to have a signed agreement. Well, I don't think that's going to make a difference. I mean, you have an agreement that's signed or not signed, or an extended agreement. It doesn't matter. Either there's going to be an attack on our collective bargaining rights or not. But why would we fight less based on? I mean, again, we're acting from a position of fear. We should be acting from a position of strength. We're the carriers. Right, I think supervisors should be more afraid than anything right now. I heard that our one of our plumes is like, shit, I might not have a job tomorrow. I mean, I personally, I don't think my job is threatened. I think that we're going to have to fight for what we're going to keep, but I don't think the letter carrier craft's going anywhere. There might be, what was it called when they took away all the when Marvin Runyon was in?
Marvin, yeah,
yeah. Was it a riff or when they took all the management people out? That wouldn't bother me a bit.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing. I think we all know that there is absolutely waste when it comes to management. I will say, Paul, I'm not as fully concerned. We're comfortable. We're insanely safe. I'm really concerned with the idea that they come in and they try to split this up between Amazon to give them the right to our boxes. You give FedEx, we know they're non-unionized for the most part. They're ground. Put them on the streets delivering, most important mail, medications, jack up the price on that stuff. And then they throw the rest of us out the door, move it to a 4-day schedule, and hire people at $19 an hour. As they've shown over the past few years, they don't care the service that the mail's being delivered in. All they care is that it's delivered. They'll put anybody out on that street and don't care if they're not delivering it correctly. All they care is that it's not in the building at the end of the day.
I have a question that I think a lot of people are curious about. As we just heard that you both witnessed Renfroe saying that we need to settle this contract as soon as possible and by any means possible by making concessions. Do you think this would have been differently if James Henry and Mike Cariff were president? Do you think they would have negotiated or done a different tactic? I know this is hypothetically, but this is a real situation come next year.
So, I may be wrong. I don't remember specifically concessions coming out. I might not have been paying attention at that point that he said specifically, we're going to have concessions.
Not so much concessions. He said that he didn't want some things on the table so that they could be concessions.
Yeah. In regards to other guys, look, I'll tell you this. Depending on how long they've known this, I wish they got us mobilized a little sooner. I wish they got us mobilized a little better. And I feel like maybe Henry or Cariff would have. One of the things I really like about Cariff is he has been on the ball with digital media and being out there and getting people to pay attention. He makes those videos, he makes those cartoons, and it draws attention. Henry's working on getting those aspects down. Henry is a very brilliant speaker. And I definitely think both of them would have handled this differently. I would hope they would have got us mobilized sooner. We're talking about throwing together rallies now where 2 days ago we didn't know if there was going to be support behind them to now there's a ton of support, but we still got less than a month to get this shit rolling.
Yeah.
And now they're saying they want them all across the country all the time.
Yeah. And to your point, the rally that they're going to hold in D.C. on the 25th was originally orchestrated by Cariff on the 23rd. So he was actually ahead of national trying to get that going. So.
And that's the key too, is what I was saying is getting them all to work together. So if they use Cariff's idea for the rally, wonderful. When it comes to this battle for non-privatization, we need Henry Cariff. We need Renfroe's guys. We all need everybody working together in this particular part of the fight, that battle, to win that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's all hands on deck. And there's going to have to be a little bit of biting your tongue and shaking someone's hand and singing Kumbaya together to win this battle, because going at it while we're fighting each other in regards to privatization is really not good for us.
Yeah. I would like to know, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to find out, we might, what the vote was on the executive council to do the expedited arbitration, because I still think it was a terrible idea. I think we should put that fight separate and fight it as hard as we can. The membership, I mean, if you polled the membership, and I think they did poll the membership, didn't they? They sent out a survey.
They did.
So if they sent out this survey and they actually wanted to know what was important to us, why are they only arguing the one thing now? Because it's an emergency.
Paul, I may have missed this, and please tell me if I did. Did he ever say when the executive staff voted?
I don't think he did. It might have been last night. Maybe he said. I'm not sure.
Was it during the 15 days? So was it, after the 15 days on February 20th or 19th, they met in the morning, and that was when they voted the deal down? Did they vote on that day? So we didn't find out?
The last time I heard there was an emergency vote was just recently, and that was to not send the TA out, right?
Yeah, that was February 19th, 2 days ago.
So how could they have voted since then? I mean, maybe they did by Zoom meeting or something. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Was that vote held on the 19th, and we were told the TA was refused, but we weren't told that, hey, we're going to expedite it because of this. It kind of feels like that information should have been given to us on the 19th when we were told they voted the TA down.
I don't think they did vote on it at that time, because Mike Cariff did post what was going on during that meeting. He got a little flack for it. I think he would have told us everything, because he put himself out there telling us what happened during that meeting. There must have been another vote afterwards.
I know there was an emergency meeting last night call, but I was told the emergency meeting last night was to figure out who leaked the information on the TA.
Right. So I don't know. Maybe the emergency executive council meeting was 4 or 5 people, and he didn't include everybody. I don't know if we'll ever know who voted and how many and which way.
I mean, that seems like a big part we should know. It seems like an interesting part. When was this vote even held?
Yeah. And I hope there was some good discussion airing this out, because again, we shouldn't be running from a fight. Just because, I mean, there's a privatization threat out there, and I understand it's a real threat, and it's something we have to address. Like you said, we got to get together and fight that as one. But that doesn't change the fact that our carriers aren't getting properly compensated for the work we're doing. It doesn't change the fact that we've got work standards out there. People aren't keeping up with inflation. People are living in their cars. I mean, this is bullshit that we can't just, run from this fight.
All right. I'll say. So we have a bunch of people wanted to comment and questions, and we got some people who have to leave early, so I just wanted to get to them first. But before that, I just want to remind people that before 1970, it was called collective begging. What we had to go through, the raises that we get, we have a voting process that goes away. We don't get to vote anymore on TAs without collective bargaining rights. That's what they're going to take away from us. So we liked how we had democracy at our job for once. That's at line. So just something I just want to bring up, but I want to get to the question. So I got Tom Caesar, then I got a bunch of other people, Tom, and then Theo, Badmouth, Johnny, Victoria, and all other people. So I'll get to you. Don't worry. So up next is Tom Caesar, if you could.
Yeah, Tom,
Hey,
sir.
Tom.
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
Like, yes, sir, right there. Good. So I already had a few of our local labor councils reach out to us. So that's something that I think we need to look into. Every branch or every city, go to your local labor councils, the iron workers, the teachers, the bus drivers, everybody, they're already in with us and they want to help us out. So that's a huge avenue when we're talking about being with our union brothers and sisters, going and getting support, showing up at rallies, holding signs, picketing, whatever it comes down to. Reach out to those people because they're more than welcome to jump on the lines with us and help out. So that's all I have to say. I just want to bring that point to everybody so they have it.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate that. Up next is Vihio.
Yeah, so my name is Virgilio Goze, NALC Branch 79 Seattle, shop steward, sergeant at arms, all that good stuff. I'm also a delegate to the Washington State Labor Council and the King County Labor Council. So that's a great idea. I have been in contact with our local labor councils for getting them the information of the March 23rd rally that CARF called for initially and then now is national supporting. I would encourage everybody here to organize that rally under the banner of the Fight Like Hell. I know it's kind of kitschy to do that, but now we have to be united and, we can do both contract campaign rally and a, anti-privatization rally. And I do agree with Paul Bollinger. Like if we had like a full-blown like arbitration drawn out months long, we're hearing what's happening, right? Updates. We could be like doing these rallies for that long. And this is the perfect time to do something like that. If we were, instead of like cowering and like going to expedite arbitration, we could have been like out there in public talking about our fights and our struggles and their reasons why we should be compensated for the work we do. So yeah, I just want to emphasize that. I've been also in contact with the Federal Unionist Network, FUN. They are a coalition of public sector unions in the federal level that have been totally under attack lately. They had a rally on Monday. I was in there for Seattle. So yeah, talk to your local labor council and the Federal Unionist Network. There's EPA workers, NLRB workers out there who've been fired and are organizing to fight back against this attack on federal workers.
All right. Awesome. Thank you for that. Up next, Ernest from the great state of Texas. If you got a few words, if you don't mind. And I know you're on mute. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, man. I just wanted to kind of fill everybody in, man. I know most people might not know about the whole, expedited arbitration policy or what that process is like. So I'm gonna just read a brief caption from our NALC libraries here, just to give people a kind of a rundown of what this is, man. So. Stay with me now. The union resumed negotiations with the Postal Service, but the talks quickly deadlocked. The parties then agreed to bring two issues, the pay package and the no layoff clause, to a hybrid dispute resolution process called mediation/arbitration, which held out the possibility that the parties might still reach a negotiated settlement. Harvard University professor James J. Healy functioned, in this dual capacity of mediator/arbitrator, and on September 15, 1978, after less than 2 weeks of mediation, failed to achieve a settlement among the parties. Healy assumed the role of impartial arbitrator in deciding the two issues. He clearly took a middle-of-the-road position. Healy removed the cap of the COLAs increase the annual wage increases slightly, and relax the no layoff clause to allow the Postal Service to terminate employees with less than 6 years of service. Although, one thing I do want to point out, man, this arbitration was basically the last. This expedited arbitration process was basically like the last hurrah of the old administration before Vincent Zambrano's administration ultimately took over. So this was kind of the nail in their coffin, man. They pissed off a lot of fucking people by deciding that they were going to do this expedited process, and then ultimately deciding that, we're going to do this expedited process. We're just going to focus on the two main issues that we think is everybody's major concern, and we're not going to talk about the problems with Article 8. We're not going to talk about the problems with the bullshit on, let's say, like for me, one of my biggest pet peeves is the overtime equitability part, that this nonsense that we got to stay within strings. I know it's down here in Texas, it might be different around the country, but it's one of my biggest pet peeves with our contract. But so that might come back to bite them in the ass. I don't know if that's a history that they're aware of, but I just wanted to, I'm sure that, Ken Grigsby from Corpus, we have a group text for the Southeastern branch of Build a Fighting NALC, and he posed the question that people are probably going to have a lot of questions about this. And it's mine. This is 1978. It's not like it's in the back of most people's mind. Most of us weren't even born yet. So that's basically what it's going to turn into. You're going to have one arbitrator as opposed to the panel of three. And this person's basically going to turn into a mediator / arbitrator. They'll try to come to some kind of mediation thing in the beginning. Obviously, if they're at arbitration, they're not going to come into any type of agreements. So then it's going to go to an arbitration thing. My assumption is that Renfroe is only going to pay attention to the economic part, because knowing him, he's probably thinking they only give a shit about their wages. We'll probably end up getting like 1.7 or some nonsense like that. And then again, but by the time that happens, we'll probably be right up against the next arbitration process. I know most people scoffed at Cariff when he brought up the Article 10 charges for making sure that Renfroe is nowhere near a negotiating table. I think for me personally, that's almost now it's paramount that we keep that son of a bitch away from any type of negotiations when it comes to our contract. He's unbelievably corrupt, and he has no leadership spine as far as my opinions are concerned. And I'm with Paul on this, that this whole nonsense with this fight like hell, you won't catch me dead in that fucking t-shirt, man. Because it's unbelievable to me how everyone kind of wants to seem to just fall behind this mantra. I understand that we have an administration that is very hostile towards us, but this idea that we're going to fall behind this mantra that he created and just kind of push aside, all of the bullshit that he's been putting us through for the last 600 days. I haven't received a fucking wage increase in 2 years. Fuck this mother. I mean, it's unbelievably frustrating how everyone just kind of wants to seem to rally around this thing because, well, we have a bigger fight to have. And I've talked to Virgilio about this, and it's one of those things that I understand why people are doing it, and I'm not trying to bash anyone who is wearing this shirt and putting that out, because I know both Cariff and Henry have both done it. So not that I'm calling them out. I just, to give my 2 cents that it's unbelievably frustrating from the rank and file, man, to see that, because, this dude had not a fighting bone in his body up until he didn't have a choice. And now all of a sudden he wants to, start this campaign and whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to give everybody the 2 cents on that. I'll send out a link for that history right now. So if anyone wants to read more up on 1971 through 78, you'll have that reading material for you.
Yeah. And thanks, brother, you had a really good point that hindsight is 20/20. If we hadn't waited 600 days to go to arbitration, we wouldn't be dealing with this shit.
Yeah, and sadly, a bunch of those days were because he wasn't available. One of the things I do not remember, Paul, maybe if you remember this, my impression was he related it to 1978, and he was discussing how in 1978 they used the one arbitrator, like Ernest said. But I believe he said that we weren't doing that type of expedited, right? I believe he said there was still going to be the 3 arbitrators, but it's the same form of expedition.
I heard arbitrator, but I can't be certain. I thought it was one arbitrator, but I can't be certain.
Mm-hmm. And another point that Ernest made that was right is we've been trying to get him to fight for quite a while. And all of a sudden, in the last 2 weeks, he had a fire lit under his ass. Feels like he had the leash taken off of him. He wanted to try to make a showing for 2026. I don't know what the fuck changed in the past 2 weeks, but all of a sudden now it's we're going to be everywhere. We're going to post on our Facebook page 3,000 times a day, but we're still not going to take off the part where you can't comment on our Facebook page. And we're going to be everywhere you turn around.
We're gonna send a Valentine's card out there saying Happy Valentine's Day, fight like hell, but we don't want to hear what you have to say.
Exactly. And then that stupid text thing of, hey, we want to hear what you say, but we don't want to hear what you say on social media, where you guys might be able to hear what each other says and feed off each other.
Yeah. Only the positive comments, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's maddening. It absolutely is. And we don't even know when the expedite is supposed to start, because last I heard, they have not contacted Nolan yet in regards to scheduling any of this.
No.
What is the lawyer's recommendation? I imagine the lawyers are recommending expedited, and that's why we got put up for a vote.
So I think he said the lawyers were the ones who consulted that we had to have a settlement made before the privatization came out. I think he said something like that. There's a legal implication that we needed a signed contract as fast as possible. Now, if you don't think the post office is going to use that against us, they know damn well right now the post office has the upper hand. They know damn well that we want to get this done as fast as possible. So again, they might give us some shit deal, or they might get us to concede to some shit deal, even for the financial package. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid. We shouldn't be going into this with our tail between our legs. It's stupid.
Yeah, and we were told as recently at the wrap session when we went to the president's meeting that they had speakers set up. They were already working on arbitration. My question is, what happens in that sense now? Does that mean the speakers are no longer be able to testify? Does that mean all that stuff is thrown out? What points are they going to be able to argue an expedited procedure?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question, because I think a lot of the testifying was going to be the working conditions, and are we even going to be able to bring that up? And the post office is going to say, well, this threats of privatization, we can't pay you a lot of money because then we're more likely to be privatized. They're going to be using that as a bargaining chip against us too. So the post office right now, despite the threat of privatization, they're in a great financial position to argue against us in arbitration.
They just made a profit.
Yeah.
They just made a profit.
They just made a profit, but they're going to say that, hey, we might be out of business tomorrow, so we can't afford to pay you. Yeah.
If they're in the same boat as us and wanting to get this deal done, then why the fuck didn't we have a deal during that 15-day time period? Why was the best deal they offered us that 1.7, 1.9? If they're what we're led to believe is that they're in a rush to get this deal as much as we are, why didn't they make us a fair deal that we could have accepted or even thought about it? This second deal was worse than the first one.
Or last night when they found out that this whole thing was coming down, why didn't they just say, let's make a deal right now? Let's call it 2.4, 2.4, 2.4, full call
Offer
it and
us
get the fuck out of town.
Offer us something. Like I said, I don't know which deal is worse, the first or the second one at this point. I think they went backwards.
They're about the same. They're about the same, if not worse. Yeah.
They went backwards.
I want to jump in real quick. The leader that we all want, but we don't want, that we don't have right now, Corey Walton just jumped in. This is being recorded. It'll be up on the podcast platform tonight. There's currently 55 people in the Zoom, and I don't know how many people are on the Discord. I'm going to ask Corey to unmute himself, and I would love to hear what Corey has to say about this, because he has words of inspiration that goes across everyone's ideology. So Corey, if you can, please speak up.
Can you hear me?
Coming on.
We can hear you.
All right. Yeah, isn't this the craziest day? This week has been like 3 months long. Hasn't it? It's like this.
Yeah.
This is the craziest week ever. And God bless us as city carriers. Anything that comes out, man, we have this fighting spirit until something comes out like this morning and we lose our shit. And I feel sorry for us. But the problem that Brian Renfroe is going to have when he goes into arbitration is his delay in getting into the conversation. And that's where I'm afraid we're going to get screwed as far as back pay, because if I'm the Postal Service, I'm going to say, why should we pay full back pay when the person who's supposed to be negotiating with us, according to their constitution, was out for the first 2 months? Right. I'm afraid that that's going to come into play. And if I'm the Postal Service, I'm using that against Brian. and that we're not supposed to be negotiating with Jim Yates and Rolando. We're supposed to be negotiating with Brian Renfroe, and he was MIA. So why should we be on the hook for those first 2 or 3 months that he was out for back pay? I'm afraid that's going to happen. But I think that Brian used this. I think the best thing that could have happened to Brian is that fake news article that came out this morning. And because you saw tonight, he used that to his advantage. Even though it came out later that it was fake, kind of some truth to it, but not entirely what they were saying. And he took that and ran with it with this Zoom tonight. You saw him play into that as far as the fear mongering still going on. And so I'm afraid that that article, even though it was fake, has hurt us as city letter carriers because he used that to implement those contractual things that are in the TA that were voted down. Looks like that's what's going to happen. And then this expedited arbitration is going to talk about the financial package. I think you're fixing to see kind of similar to what the TA was coming out as far as what we're going to get. It's just a shit show right now as far as with the Zoom call, what he was talking about, the things that he's going to implement. And it looks like he's going to get his way anyway, as far as what they initially proposed. And I hate that that's happened, but it's just terrible timing for us for that fake news article to come out. And, just the sheer anarchy that was shown. I mean, the village was burning down today, man. I was like, what in the fuck is going on? And I hate that happened because it looked like it gave Brian the out he was looking for. And you're talking about a cat who refuses to fight. He wants to talk a big game, but you saw tonight, and everybody's talking about it on social media, this unwillingness to fight. He will use anything as an excuse not to fight, and he got the ultimate excuse, and that's what I'm afraid of.
Sure. 100%. Yeah.
I'm so radioactive right now.
And that's the thing that I've always wondered. Are they going to make the argument, or would they make the argument under arbitration that we didn't bargain in good faith because he wasn't at the table that whole time? And was that the fear of going to arbitration in the beginning? Because again, it seems like waiting that 600 days really fucking screwed us at this point. Really bad.
Yeah. It's odd because, the 600 days to me, and I talked about this the other day, was, to me, they knew what they were going to do. They held out on it this long to starve us out. It didn't work. And damn it, if this didn't happen, it's like, fuck, we can't win for losing. Yeah.
How long did they all know this was coming down the hill? Have they known about this for months, a year?
Yeah.
Was this something that was on the burner and saying, hey, we're in no rush. We're going to offer him 1.3 because this shit's coming down soon enough if he gets elected?
Yeah. And they would be foolish. Any advocate would use that against them as far as Brian not being here to negotiate. They'd be foolish not to do that.
It's an easy win, it seems.
You can save 3 months of back pay nationwide to however many hundreds of thousands of carriers. The Postal Service is not stupid. There's some very bright individuals at that level, and they are, ruthless as far as what they want. And they should be. They should be like that. We should be like that. If I could use that against them, I'm going to use it. I don't give a damn. And so I'm afraid they'll use that against us because he was out AWOL for the however many months, and they'd be foolish not to use that against us.
Wouldn't it be great if we're as ruthless as them?
So Corey, do you think there's going to be some backdoor deals now? Because Renfroe pretty much said, you got us over the barrel. We don't want to talk about the COLAs. We don't want to talk about the temporary workforce. If that's on the table, that would jeopardize our position because the arbitrator might take one and give one. So do you think they might be talking to Renfroe behind the table saying, hey, you know what? You don't want the COLAs out there, so everyone gets a 50% COLA now because otherwise we're putting it on the table and it's going to be a bargaining chip. I mean, I bet you shit like that's going to go on.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt because now you can blame it on Trump. Everything that you're fixing to see is going to be blame it on Trump because of this idiotic news article that came out today, and that's what I was telling everybody. Just hang on. You know, as a shop steward, if a carrier comes up to you and tells you, hey, look, management said they're going to give me a 14-day suspension, you don't grieve that. You wait.
Right.
You wait and see. Are they going to give you one? You know, if they give you one, then we're going to investigate it, and then we're going to grieve it. But damn, you know, a news article comes out from a newspaper, and fuck, we lose our shit. You know, and we start going around as stewards. We know to just hang on, you know, chill a little bit, and let's let everything come out before we, you know, overreact on this thing. And that's what happened. But it's going to play perfectly into what Renfroe's going to do now. Because I don't trust him. If people listen to me, they know I don't trust that son of a bitch for nothing. And he will use that to his advantage. He was bitter as hell that TA got smashed like it did. So he's got a great out now to put in the contractual issues that he wanted, that he's agreed to management with. That is a fantastic out. He's got support now from carriers because they're afraid of Trump now. Privatization and all this other shit. And so, he's going to play that to his advantage. And Paul, absolutely, there's going to be backdoor type shit going on. Things that, you know, you go into arbitration sometimes if you're an advocate and you tell the arbitrator, hey, look, we've already agreed to this, but, you know, both sides will get mad at us if we don't at least start the hearing. And we'll do our opening statements, but we've already come up with this settlement. So just say that we started the hearing and here's the settlement. And you can just write an award for us. Yeah, it's a stipulated award. And
it's the CA program again all over from 2013.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Corey. They could go in already deciding on 1.7, and we don't even know, but it's already been agreed upon. I mean, to me, Renfroe tying these two things together, tying the fear of the privatization and the contract and making it all happen at once is the best thing that could happen to him. I think you're right.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that happened with DAS, you know, with the CCA position. Both sides stipulated to that, and that was put into his award. You know, you always, as an advocate, have a stipulated award. You go in, just like I said, you go in, you say, look, we've already agreed to this. We have to at least show that we started the hearing. So management's going to put on their opening statement. We'll put on our opening statement, and that's all we'll do. And the arbitrator will say, you know, this is the hearing, and it'll be a stipulated award. Nobody has any idea. Even the MBAs don't have an idea that we just had a stipulated award because, you know, we came into an agreement with things. They want this arbitration to go forward, and we'll say, here's the stipulated award, and that's what we'll get. And so, yeah, Paul, that's a great point. I would look for stuff like that to happen. He has no fire, no desire to go forward with this thing. They keep talking about they've had this thing, you know, arbitration ready since last year or whatever. He has no desire to go forward with this thing. And today was the perfect out for him. And I think he's going to use that to his advantage.
It seems like we're the most prepared, unprepared group in the world. So they're talking about how HR 70 was because of them, the shirts, but yet they're ill prepared for arbitration where they asked to expedite it.
Yeah.
Yep. Corey, I got a question from Ernest here. He wants to ask your opinion about Rolando and Renfroe asking arbitrators to give us a CCA position. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's you know, that's well known that they came into that. The CCA position was born out of the DAS agreement, and that is something that both parties have agreed to, and that was kind of stipulated in there is the CCA position. I think Rolando even acknowledged that that was a stipulated position. And at the time, you know, it sounded good. You know, we had kind of a need for that. That quickly became antiquated. It's just that it's still here, and that's our fault. We should have gone to arbitration immediately after that, the next one, to get that position taken out. And it's been the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Not that the CCAs, the carriers are bad. It's just the position is devastating to us. It's one of the reasons we can't keep anybody. And, that's one of the things that made me so upset about, and I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, but one of the things that made me so upset with Renfroe was when he said that we're going to have an all-career workforce or it's a non-starter. And I know people are tired of me saying that, but the thing is that if you're talking about retaining employees and short-staffed and the staffing issues that we have, it's because of the CCA position, and that's it. If you came in full-time and, a little bit more money, I think that you would see the staffing issues kind of relieve themselves. But here we have another, talking about it's going to be an all-career workforce and non-starter, and we have CCA still. And so, Rolando and them came in with that stipulated position. It went in there, and now if we still don't have it. Hopefully I answered that guy's question.
Yeah, I think you did. I agree with you, though. I think the CCA position was mutually agreed upon, and this was our chance right here in this contract to get rid of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, you had to take that shot. But it looks like now that the contractual issues won't even be talked about, if not agreed upon.
I mean, the whole thing of the CCA position was like, well, the pre-funding mandate is now happening, but now we don't have the pre-funding mandate anymore. That was the excuse of the CCA, if I understand it correctly. So you can make the argument that but he didn't make that argument at all, did he?
Yeah.
We're still going to be stuck with it. We're still going to have a 2-tier system. We're still going to have CCAs. And during the web conference, did he talk about getting rid of CCAs at all, or was that addressed? I know in his 15 days you talked about it, but was that brought up at all?
He didn't. One of the things he mentioned, though, it just blew my mind, is he said it was asked about the under 6-year layoff clause. Are they doing anything with that? Are they planning on arbitrating that to protect carriers with under 6 years? And he said, we haven't discussed it yet, but, we're planning on going to post office to discuss it maybe and see. Why wouldn't you discuss that ASAP? If this is a situation where this supposedly was going to drop down the hill today, wouldn't you want to get that on the books while Tolino and DeJoy is there and who's in charge? Because from what he's telling us, they're going to come in, those guys are gone, there'll be a whole new group of guys, we might not even know who those guys are. Wouldn't you want to protect the under 6-year carriers and make sure you discuss that and get that down?
Yeah.
Or anything.
He had no intention or no inclination or no forethought to even do that. No way. If he said he was thinking about that, it's because you mentioned it, and that's when he started thinking about that.
It's like I said, the most prepared, unprepared people I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, those fight like hell T-shirts should say "run like hell."
The thing about the layoff clause is that if you look on social media again, so many carriers are terrified about that because of that article today. And so what Renfroe can do to play that to his advantage is say, hey, look, we went in there and fought like hell to keep this no layoff clause, and we were able to succeed at that when there was never an issue. So he's going to be able to put that feather in his cap, and it's not an issue. We have collective bargaining, we have a no strike clause, but they get we get the no layoff clause, and so
Or check this one out, Corey. Okay, we didn't get privatized, but I got you 1.3.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing, guys.
Yeah. I fought like hell, man. We didn't get privatized, but I got you that 1.3. Don't worry.
And
what do you think would have happened if 300 days ago they did this whole red shirt fight like hell campaign, put us on the streets, had rallies? If they did that 300, 400 days ago, would we have had a contract that was sufficient by today?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's insane.
And here's the problem with Renfroe is that he's so incredibly dishonest. And when you're so incredibly dishonest, nobody believes anything you say. And so, and people put like I just talked about, you think about the no layoff clause and him doing those things. Well, when you're so dishonest, that's what people think about you. And that's what the talking on these podcasts goes around is that, you're so dishonest, they think that you're fucking up everything and lying about everything. And that's what I hate to think that of my president, but his history has shown that he's so incredibly dishonest, has no issues lying to us. Just look at this this negotiations. There's enough lies throughout that to last a career. And so, yeah, I hate that, but it is what it is.
Even at that committee of presidents, Corey, remember when I was trying to call him out on the reduced fixed office time?
Yeah,
right to his face. I'm like, Brian, you just agreed to reduce it. No, I didn't, brother. You did. I mean, yeah, you fucking did.
But he tried to explain that away, and you wouldn't let him off the hook. He was trying to say, we start at this, and you're just like, no, we don't.
You went to 20 minutes, man. What the fuck, dude? I mean,
there's no other way around that. It was 33 minutes. It's now 20. And there's no way around that, and that was our saving grace as far as this hour office time. But he's so out of touch with us. With the city letter carrier, he's so out of touch with us. He doesn't understand what he's doing when he says, "I'll give you that 33 to 20." And then when we get into the route adjustment process, the carrier will have those extra minutes, those hidden minutes. That's not how this works, man. This is 365 days a year. They're going to be using that against us now because of that metric with Dr. Collin coming in here with this metric of an hour office time. We were beating them off of us with this 33 minutes fixed office time, and then this fool lowers it to 20.
Yeah,
and now it looks like, with the way he was talking, that will be implemented. I hope that's not the case, but it looks like those things that were agreed upon are going to go ahead and go into effect, and they're just going to take the financial package forward. I pray that we misheard that.
That's the way I understood it. And the other thing is, you're 100% right. You're off the floor for so long, you don't realize that the day after that news came out that you're lowering the fixed office time, bosses were going to come around and go, "Hey, you now have 50 minutes in the office," because the bosses gave every single one of us their favorite line. Your union agreed to this.
Yeah, and it's already happening. It's happening now. So it's not like, we're speculating. That's happening. People are messaging me, hey, they're telling us they only have 20 minutes of fixed office time, because you cannot say anything like that. You can't come out with times like these memos. I know people are tired of that, but that's what happens. You have to understand who we are. And he wasn't one of us long enough on this floor. See, he deals with people in suits. They can trust each other at that level. I will never trust a motherfucker at that level. I don't care who it is, but when you're dealing with suits, they come into an agreement, this will be how it's going to be done. But as soon as it hits the area level and the area starts telling the district level, and then the district level starts telling the installations, well, those supervisors are going to try to get those attaboys. And this is what happens. They start beating the shit out of the city letter carrier for, you got 20 minutes of fixed office time, just like you said. The union has agreed to it. It's in writing. I've got it right here. And that's what happens. You get these people that are overzealous on these floors, and that creates that toxic working environment based off of something that probably was innocent when it was written up there at the top. But by the time it gets down to us, it's game on.
Yeah, especially when it comes to those performance reviews, and these guys are making money off of metrics. Of course, they're going to tell us the metrics are less so they can make their little bonuses.
Yeah.
And what kind of position does that put us in, too? I mean, nobody wants to go through a 6-day root count, but now we don't want to do a negotiated agreement either, because we're going to have lower fixed office time. So you're in a fucking corner. You can't give either one.
You've got your load times. You've got your parcel delivery times. You got your NDBCU times. Now you got 20 minutes fixed office time. This dude is beating the shit out of us, man, with these memos. It's like, God, dog. He needs to get these before he signs another thing. There should be some kind of clause that he has to run it through the executive council. Now, he'll never do that because he's narcissistic, but there should be some kind of clause that, man, before you sign anything, let everybody look at it so that we can tell you the downfalls of what you're doing, because he's signing shit that's absolutely murdering us.
Yeah. And I love the survey he sent out. 600 days after, he should have sent out a survey to see what we wanted,
You need a survey. You have groups that have been telling you the whole time on social media, everywhere at rallies.
Well, in case you didn't notice, he doesn't want to hear from us.
No.
Well, all of that is because when this TA got voted down, I can tell you with 100% certainty that sent shockwaves through national. They had no idea that was coming. And you got people running from that guy right now. People that were diehard Renfroe fans, as far as NBA, saying that they're probably going to run independently. They're not going to run on his ticket because that sunk him. Well, he's trying to grasp at straws now with these surveys. I want y'all included in this now. I want my carriers included. I want y'all to have a voice. Well, bitch, it's been 700 days.
Yeah.
Well, where was our voice back when this first started? Now, 700 days later, you got your ass whipped on this TA, and you all of a sudden want the carriers' input.
I want to know where the NBAs were 700 days ago. That's what
they
I
were
want
shut
to know.
out. I think they were shut out.
I honestly have 30 years left. And the scariest part is Renfroe, right? But all his minions behind him are lockstepping with him. And if they're falling off now, it's already too late. We need to vote all of them out. And if they're running independently, that's already too late. Like, they should have spoke up against the TA.
But Corey's right. Unfortunately, this whole privatization thing is going to try to work that in his favor, saying, "Hey, listen, I'm the only one fighting for us. Everybody come behind me now. We need to fight together." And we do have to fight together, but it doesn't mean that makes him any more of a savior than he was 10 minutes ago.
As a union, we got to stand united, right? We got to stand united.
Yeah.
But does anyone actually trust Renfroe to lead us in a fight? No. It's the rank and file need to stand shoulder to shoulder and direct Renfroe on where to go. He has no game plan at all on how to fight back. And we have 200,000 active carriers. You got at least have 1,000 militant motherfuckers here that are willing to actually put up a fight. He should be reaching out. He should be reaching out to the militant minority of us. You got Tyler Vassler over there who's building a fighting NALC. He's taking him on at the convention. Like, Renfroe should be knocking on his door for guidance right now. as the NBAs as well. We should be making a game plan on how to fight back. And I kind of want to transition into having Vigilio back on because a lot of us were on the East. A lot of us were on East Coast WebEx, and then Renfroe jumped off and did a West Coast at WebEx. And I want to know if Vigilio has anything to add to this because currently we have 60 people on the Zoom, and this is being recorded. So if anyone jumps on later, I want to have a little highlight of what happened. And one of the things that I heard happened on the East Coast was a lot of people were asking Renfroe, if this is such a serious threat, why are we not talking about a work stoppage? And I want to see if Vigilio has anything like that happen on the West Coast over there. So Vigilio, if you could unmute yourself and describe what happened on the WebEx on the West Coast, please feel free. Because I think that's one of the most vital things is if the attitude on the East Coast is the same as the West Coast, because right now the rank and file need to find out who the leaders are. And if anyone's speaking up about work stoppages, they should not be silenced. They should be brought forward. Like, sure, we're not in a position right now to strike, nor probably in the near future, but these people have the right state of mind. We need militancy. So if Vigilio's still here, please, I'm going to mute myself, but Vigilio, please unmute yourself.
Oh, well, I was listening to the WebEx at the West Coast also after, some really nice folks at the Premier Arbitration Podcast was streaming it. There's a little bit less of the work stoppage questions, but it did pop up, right? Like, and Renfroe did emphasize that, we have no strike clauses in our contract and that it's illegal, right? But it is a topic that should be brought up, I believe, if if he believes that we're really under threat. But he has this perspective that since the Trump administration is looking forward to quote unquote destroying the Postal Service, a work stoppage would be an opposite, would be a negative perspective for the public who are already with us. What he believes should be the way forward is to educate the public on what we actually do, that we're, not taxpayer funded and all that usual talking points, which to me, it's like, we can't even we do not have even the muscle to do nationwide rallies? How are we expecting to get everybody on board for a work stoppage? That's the first thing I would say to everybody here is we have a lot of tools that we should be using first before, talking about work stoppage one place at a time, because you know what would happen? Like management will just fire you the next day. And then, as he said, did say, it's a very hard bar on our grievance arbitration procedure to get your job back. So first thing is, we should be coordinating nationwide days of action. That's something we could do right now. That's something that should have been happening 600 days ago when, when we stopped negotiating with, and then could have gone to interest arbitration, because these are labor actions that the APW does all the time. Like, just one thing I do want to point out is the APW is far ahead of the NALC in terms of like doing actual things that would build on top of each other to create solidarity. Like, they do like button campaigns. they do like, what's our motto? Oh shit. my monitor kind of can hear me. But yeah, so that's basically what his perspective is on the West Coast, similar to the East Coast. We have a grievance procedure that will probably not protect us if we go to wildcat strike, but that should be something that people should be thinking about. Yet, I do have to say, there are a lot of things we could do before we even start talking about a work stoppage, in my opinion, anyways. Because nationwide days of action, that has not been done since the 6-day campaign, 6-day delivery campaign. And we have a lot of new carriers right now that really need to be reached out on and is willing to do something like this. Like, this is why, like earlier, like when Paul Bollinger said about why are we going to expedite arbitration? Why aren't we doing like a regular arbitration where it would be dragged out months long, where we would hear what's happening and actually educate people out there? To me, that would have been a great, great spot to get like everybody engaged. But we're doing this expedited arbitration, but nobody's stopping us from doing, encouraging National to he pointed out they're gonna reach out to local newspapers and local media on if we are willing to do local rallies. Let's take that option, right? Like, if National's gonna sponsor these things, nothing's stopping people on the ground when the rally happens from talking about our contract negotiations. We can do both things at the same time, right? We can have a contract campaign and we can have an anti-privatization campaign if it ever needs to be happening at the same time. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, in my opinion. It might be in expedited interest arbitration, but this is a great time for the public to understand why we deserve, a higher wage, really good benefits, and we should defend our jobs, right? So I encourage everybody here to organize your own local rallies and encourage National to sponsor them if they're going to send those signs or shirts or whatever. Take those resources. If you're a small branch, like ask your MBA to do it, because nothing's stopping you guys when the march happens or the rally happens from talking about our contract, right? It's a free speech issue. We can talk about our wages, hours, and working conditions. As that is one thing he did say, this fight on the legislative front, it's not specifically going to be affected by the Hatch Act, as long as you don't criticize Trump or anything like that specifically as a political matter. You talk about it in a legislative manner where the proposals he's putting forward is bad for us, so to speak. So, as I said, just focus on how our contract campaign should be, talking about how we deserve higher wages, how better working conditions, and educate the public, right? That's what we were. This is a great thing. Like, people here are in this WebEx and in this Discord and this particular Zoom are already organized because CLC, BFN, and all this rank and file movements have been building, and we are in a great spot to actually fight. I shouldn't say fight like hell, but just to meet the moment, right? We contract wise, we should be. If they're gonna send people to DC to do these legislative stuff, then we should go into where the arbitration is happening, right? Like, we should send people when this expedited 3-day arbitration happens. We should have people go there and observe what's happening, That's an option, right? So I don't know if we have branches who are willing to do something like that, but those are the kind of things that outside the box stuff that we should be thinking about, in my opinion. So, there is a nationwide March 23rd day of action that, CARIF has called for, but now National's pushing it to March 25th. But in order to make it inclusive to everybody, I feel like local branches should be doing it on March 23rd, right? Like when it's a Sunday, a lot of us have already planned it. In Seattle, for example, we're having one in Westwood Station at 1:00. So, as I said, this is a perfect time to be organizing and reaching out to your fellow letter carriers who are wondering, what's this about the news about like privatization and all that? Well, you could talk to them about like our contract and how we should be also fighting on that front, while, maybe contacting your legislators to support HRS 70. So that's just my opinion. Work stoppage wise, I feel like we have a lot of work to do before we can even like go there. But it should be something that we should be talking about. Getting the right to strike. That is one of BFN's planks. It's like lobbying our Congress people to getting the right to strike, because we saw just how quickly Trump has just gone through all of these federal workers. Like they just fired them, and then they can't strike. So that's something I feel like we should be thinking about, is supporting BFN's plank on getting the right to strike in the first place. Sorry, I talked a little bit long.
That's okay. It's all good, brother. All right. Up next on Stack, I have Johnny, Badmouth, and then Victoria. So, Johnny, if you could unmute yourself. Is Johnny still here? I think not. So, okay. Must have lost him. All right. Badmouth. I know I saw you. I know you had an internet connection. All right. You're still here. All right. Badmouth, go for it.
Move on to the next person who wants to come back.
All right, then. All right. Victoria, who has had her hand up like she's in church. That made me laugh. All right, Victoria. Only because I know. I'm sorry. There you go. So thank you for your patience on being on Stack for this long.
Well, no, it was a great discussion. I have to say, I have so much to say. First of all, Ernest said something. He said some of us on this call may not have been alive in 1978. I have to admit, I was alive. I was delivering mail. I voted against the contract. I remember when Branch 214 San Francisco reserved a room at the Hilton, and it was the largest union meeting we ever had. And we had a full discussion about whether, when we voted, should we vote yes or no? And it was going to mean we possibly might go out on strike. And and I don't remember specifically the details about the stuff we're talking about now, but I feel like also it's interesting to note that I feel that what's happening right now is a massive attack against the working class, and people have already spoken. It's important to go to labor councils, but teachers are under attack, EPA workers are under attack, air controllers are under attack, postal workers are going to be under attack, and I don't see this as two separate fights. Because I think if we're going to fight against privatization, we're fighting for the customers. We're fighting for the post office. We need to see the customers as one of our major allies in this battle. And most carriers are loved by their customers. And if customers knew this assholey contract that was put on the table, they're outraged. Whenever I talk to a customer, they say, how come DeJoy's still there? And DeJoy has actually, I think, for the time he's spent, he has been piecemeal setting in place the privatization of the Postal Service. And all four union leaders have been silent. And I think personally that was criminal with a capital C. I want to say, oh God, there's so much to say. Oh, the other thing, many unions right now, teachers, nurses, they're having true collective bargaining. What does that mean? They rent a huge hall, sometimes a church, and you'll have 400 nurses observing the negotiations. So there's absolute transparency. And that's what, we shouldn't like there was conversation here on this call, like, well, I wonder how many voted for this and what's going on. And, we should demand and be bold and insist on transparency, because it's our livelihood. It's us that are responsible for putting the food on our table for our family. It's our future. I'm a retiree. I'm hoping I'm thinking, am I going to be able to survive homelessness? I don't know. It's kind of scary, folks. So I really think we need to be, and going back to what Paul said, we should not operate out of fear. Absolutely true. Paul, all of us on this call should be bold. We're essential workers. I was an essential worker. I'm retired now, but all of you are essential. If there's supposedly a nuclear bomb, you guys are going to be distributing anti-radiation pills or something.
Right. That's right.
We are critical. We need to emphasize, stress, prove it, show it, tell it, say it. That's what we are, and that's something strong. And the people, the customers love us, and that's what we need to connect with, make alive, and live in any protest. And so, God, there's more I have to say. I think here in a second. So Paul has got a point: transparency of customers, and the other thing, one union. We have got to work with the APWU mail handlers. None of this fighting and bickering. Somebody said earlier, I've been to so many conventions, and I remember in the 70s and 80s and maybe even early 90s. I go back a long ways, guys. I remember us getting up at the national conventions and like making fun of the Teamsters because they created that 2-tier system. And we said at that time, we would never do that. Never. Well, we did it. Shame on us. So we need to get rid of the CCAs. And, I'm very critical. I want to know how many people spoke out. I never saw anything in the postal record after we got the CCAs. I personally, in 2018, those of you that were at the convention, I spoke. And what happened was on Area Cola. And I went up to Mike. This is my last thing. I've got so much more to say. But I went up to I went up to the mic, to this one mic. I said, "Are you pro or con area cola, area wage?" He said, "I'm gonna call the question." I said, "Okay." So I went to another mic, and I got to the mic, and of course they called on calling the question, and the question was called. It was voted to accept the question and debate. Fine, we voted on the area cola, and it was defeated. And I'm standing at the poll, and my business agent comes up to me. He goes, "Vicky, it's over." And I said, "Well, I have something to say." So I turned it to privilege. And I was the one that said, and this was in 2018, because we had 5 letter carriers, 4 that lived in their car. One was a woman. She was a dynamite unionist, too. She came to all the union meetings. And one that lived in a tent outside Mission, Bryant Street, which is in the Mission. And shame, it's been bad for a long, long time. We're in 2025. And that's the thing. There's a lot of suffering going on right now. Let us not forget Eugene Gates. And last thing, when we had the protect our letter carriers campaign, and Renfroe actually showed up in San Francisco. I got there late due to traffic and various other reasons, but I wore my own red shirt, not the blue one, and it said "Dump to Joy," and I had my own sign. And so we need to be bold and fight like hell for what we need, what we deserve. That's it. Thanks.
Wow.
You rock, Vicky. You rock, man.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, appreciate that.
That was a lot, and it was all spot on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. Badmouth, are you on standby? Are you here?
I'm here.
All right. Go for it.
I was gonna say that I love you guys, but I got to follow Vicky, so I kind of want to tell you all to get fucked at this point. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. But yeah. Okay. So I'm a CCA. So like us CCAs, we are dreaming of a day where we can live paycheck to paycheck. Because right now I'm living paycheck to every other paycheck. I got a bunch of shit in pond. It sucks. Like, this is trash. Starting wage for a CCA is $19.33 with this TA. That would have been 1.3% plus the extra 1% in the TA. That amounts to 44.5 cents an hour, which brings starting wage up to $19.77 an hour. That is unlivable. I have been putting out, I have been giving out Building Fighting NALC flyers and trying to organize CCAs at Amazon Sunday and stuff. We put on rallies down here. I got to sit in on this Renfroe all hands on deck branch president meeting, right? I talked to Murphy a lot, and I begrudgingly agree with him on some things that I hate that I agree with him on it. That our fucking leadership at this point, Renfroe, whether he's Homer Simpson disappearing into the bushes, coming back out with a fake mustache, talking about fighting like hell. He is Steve Buscemi in the meme, walking up with a skateboard, a hoodie, and a backpack, saying, "How do you do, fellow rank and file?" Like, it's garbage. But the whole point of a reform movement is to grab our leaders and drag them kicking and screaming into a better day for us. So if he wants to put on the Groucho Marx glasses right now, and he wants to actually get in the fight, fuck it. Like, welcome to the party, motherfucker. Let's go. We need to take that, because he's not dumb. He knows which way the wind is blowing. We need to take that wormy parasite survival mechanism that's kicked him into trying to survive and leverage that against our NBAs, against our status quo branch presidents, against all of the fucking ding-dongs between DC and our local branch. And we need to take that energy that they're giving off to just survive and leverage that. I just immediately, because in my branch, I get no play. We put on a rally down here in Dallas-Fort Worth. This is Texas. We're playing on hard mode down here. It wasn't a big rally, but we got people from Dallas and Fort Worth and Arlington, and I got no play for my branch. And I just immediately, during this conference, sent my branch president a message saying, "Hey, I know you're in that meeting. Now that Renfroe is talking about that, and you know I've been doing this for so long, can I get some play from you?" And you know what? He either has to back my play now, or admit that he's in the way of both the guy at the top and the people at the bottom. And when you when you realize you are between that rock and that hard place, you are fucked if you don't play ball with somebody, right? So everything that we are doing and everything that we have been working towards, we are getting results, and we don't rest on our laurels. We don't wait for the momentum to die down. Building momentum is the hardest thing. We have momentum now. And I know, like, I work with the CLC. I know I annoy those cats. I work with the BFN. I know I annoy those cats. Like, I'm obnoxious. I'm banging on this war drum all the time because I am terrified that we will lose momentum. We have so much momentum right now, and we need to grapple that, grab that bull by the horns, and ride it through that gate, not for 8 seconds, not for 10 seconds, but wear that bull out, right? That's a Texas metaphor about riding bulls and shit. Okay, so
I would guess.
so like, we can't strike, right? But there's a lot of daylight between rolling over and digging our own grave and handing a fucking Trump the shovel and us striking. We got a lot of daylight in there. So, Renfroe wants to come out and fight like hell. Oh God! All right, I'm going to. I will never sacrifice my values and my integrity, but I can swallow some pride to work with a ding dong on this shit. So I'm gonna talk to I'm gonna talk to Boyd tomorrow about trying to get him to back the BFN's play down here in putting on a rally on the 23rd. And if anyone wants to, I say this in every meeting, if you want to stack your rallies with bodies, you want more people there, reach out to the AFL-CIO, like we've talked about. Reach out to the IWW, because I guarantee you got a branch in your city if you got a big enough city. They're the ones that came up with the phrase, an injury to one is an injury to all. And go to damn hippie fucking vegan punk coffee shops and put a flyer up on those cork boards there, because you're gonna have anarchists who know what tear gas tastes like, who are willing to come out and stand next to you. Like, we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of momentum already. Sorry, I'm putting my soapbox aside. I've been in too many meetings.
Awesome.
Give him hell, bad mouth. Give him hell, brother.
There you go. All right.
Love
Thank
it,
you for that, bad mouth. I wanted to just to piggyback on bad mouth's point too about Renfroe. Like, I will, because I want a good contract. We all want a good contract. I will defend him now if he's doing the right thing. I will work with him on this. I will in 2026. I'll get him a U-Haul. I'll show up to help him leave office in 2026. But until that day, he's doing he's at least he's making the motions. You know, all is not forgiven because we're under attack. Technically, you're in charge. So I want to survive this assault long enough to get you out in 2026. So an actual leader, whether it be James Henry, whether it be Mike Cariff, I'm fine either way. Like, I like Cariff, but I like James Henry too. They're both great. Anybody is better than fucking the guy we got now. So I think that's fine. And yeah, the thing about, strike as a concept, if we need to first organize rallies. If we can get people to show up to a rally, then hypothetically speaking, of course, we can talk about other actions, which I'm not naming. But I'm just saying, get people to do that. That's the first commitment. We had a very high turnout. Way more people turned out to vote in this election than the last one. I think 40% more. It's a much higher amount. So I think it looks good. We're looking better than we have been in any other year. So I'm just want to say that. And that being said, I see Ernest is on stack.
Damn, my bad. I couldn't find the damn mute button. Thank you, brother. I mean, real quick, man, I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody on here, man. Thank you. When Murphy was first talking about doing this podcast, Murphy's a dear brother of mine, man. So, to see all these people, 60 people getting on, most union halls can't gather 60 people. So, to see you guys all on here late on a Friday night, supporting these kids and getting these conversations going in the format in which they're doing it. It's not 2-3 people talking, man. They open it up and they allow people to come in and speak. And I can't tell you how proud I am to see all these people on here, man, and the potential that I see with these what these three are going to do with this thing. So thank you, man. I know it's not we don't get a lot of free time, so the fact that you guys made it a point to get on here and stay for the majority of it, yeah, thank you, man. To piggyback off of what Victoria was talking about, one of the things that we're getting into here, which really, really frustrates me, is, we're constantly told by these people who are coming from either beneficial wealth situations or just luck. You start the right business at the right time, and 9 times out of 10, it's a luck thing more than a skill thing. And, for me, when I first started my small business, it was a small clothing brand, and we started off with T-shirts, and had it not been for the Postal Service, I wouldn't have been able to be competitive. You can't compete with the Amazons and the Academies of the world as a small business owner without the U.S. Postal Service, and that's just facts, man. And so when I constantly hear that, whether it's a charter school issue or whether it's these very, very aggressive local municipality police forces that are having to become aggressive because that's the only way that they're going to get their funding. I'm really, really sick and tired of us everywhere that we turn, man. These people, these really, really, again, really rich people are constantly telling us that we don't have the right to very basic shit, whether it's public schools or a postal service or a peaceful police force, if it's not making money. And that is just one of those things that they're continuing to drive home now. And we all have to recognize something, that we pay the fucking bills around here. Most of these guys don't even pay fucking taxes, regardless of all the money that they have and all the write-ups that they have. We do all the work. we pay all the taxes, and we're the ones that are having to constantly go without. And that, for me, again, because I've said this before. I've got my 2 children. I would like to leave them a better world than what I came into. And seeing all you guys on here and knowing that you guys give a damn to have these kind of conversations on a Friday night of all things is really, really reassuring, man. I can't tell you how much it means. And I have a hell of a lot better outlook for the NALC because of all the people that are on this call than I did just 3 years ago. So kudos to, kudos to Chris and John and Capone, man, for putting this together and keep going, man. We need more people like y'all, and y'all are you're doing great, man. So thank you, and thank you to everybody who's on here. And man, let's keep it going, man. Let's keep it going.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ernest. Appreciate it. All right. And I think it is getting it's about 11:40 Eastern Standard Time people here. So I think for the last comment, we have John, my co-host, who I can probably close this out. But I just want to say thank you so much. I know this is late, especially the presidents. I know this is a long day for you. You put in a lot of time. Thank you for standing up for us. We know you're the good ones. We know you keep it. Thank you. I only wish all of our leaders were like you. The last episode, to plug our episode, was a letter from a president who was not very happy with BFN and CLC. But listen to our last episode if you want to hear that takedown. But anyway, John, the floor is yours.
Yeah. If anyone's listening at this point with the podcast, there's 46 people in the Zoom, and I don't know if there's a Discord still going or not. But I was not on the WebEx. I am just a rank and file member, and I want to reiterate the point that it's up to the membership to save our union. When the tentative agreement came out, Build the Fight in the NALC, CARF, and the CLC jumped on board and was like, "Hey, let's hold parking lot rallies." And it's 3,000 branches, right? So there's over 3,000 offices across this country, and only a handful of offices actually mobilized. And we're all upset now that we have a shit tentative agreement, but we have no one to blame but ourselves, because we allowed one dude to negotiate a contract that determines the lifestyle of over 300,000 members. So going forward, if you are honestly pissed off and you are honestly frightened for your career, as I am, I'm only 3 years in, so I don't even get to the 6-year protection yet. Organize your office. Or organize not just your branch, start with your office. Start with your route. If you have 5 people in your route, in your zone, talk to them. Talk to your coworkers. We can no longer allow our branch presidents, our NBAs, and our national offices to run this union. They cannot run this union, which is our union, properly. Less than 7% of the federal workforce of the private sector is unionized. If you put the public sector in, it's 9% of the workforce. 9 out of 100 workers right now are unionized in the United States. Labor is dead. And the only way we could revive ourselves is if we actually become a militant union. We got to build a fighting NALC. And one of the things is we need to start talking to people. And one of the biggest things is what I do. Go into your office and pretend it's a non-union workforce. Pretend you need to have someone sign up for the union. You know who to go to and you know who not to go to. You know that crazy white dude who's a huge anti-union hitchhiker is not going to sign the card. But someone that is always going to union meetings, they'll sign the card. Start with your easy people. That's your core group. That's your activists. Talk to them. Hear what they have to say. Listen. Because we honestly need to build a core inside each office to move forward. And the core group is those people that are always thinking about organizing and how to get others involved, even on their time off, which is right now. It is currently 11:45 p.m. on a Friday, and there's 45 people on this Zoom. That is a core group of people. And my understanding is the WebEx that just happened on the East Coast only had a few hundred people, and it was only sent out to the branch presidents. These branch presidents are quote unquote your core people. And only 200 to 300 people showed up for that one. That is disgraceful. If we, out of what In a less than an hour notice, we got 40 to 60 people on the Zoom call. So it is vital for everyone listening. Become the core of your union. You could be a supporter right now. You could be just listening to this while you're delivering mail and that's all you do. That is great. You do not have to go to union meetings to be a leader. That is one of the biggest cop-outs people say. That is what union bureaucracy says. That you're not a leader unless you go to union meetings. That is absolutely false. I can name 5 leaders right now in my office that never go to union meetings. That if someone has a problem, they go to them. So do not fall for union bureaucracy. Build that core. If you're an activist, you're the type of people that can be counted on when things heat up. If you're a supporter, you're the ones that are like, okay, yeah, like I support the union. So we need to get the supporters to become activists, and we need activists to become core people. You know, on March 23rd, we need to have more than 100 branches organizing across the country on a Sunday outside every post office, mobilizing and empowering everyone and inviting the community for a fair contract. We need to keep the focus on a fair contract, or else the next contract round, we will get a pay freeze. Something drastic will happen because Renfroe will fold again. Our leadership will fold. So we need you to step up, replace your union bureaucracy with a fighting rank and file union.
It wasn't like pulling up the menu to get out of it.
Who's Max?
It was like going into like.
Sorry. So I will end on this. If you never signed a petition before, create a petition inside your office and send it to Renfroe. Say that you're not willing to bend or fold until you get a fair contract. Get your coworkers to sign on to it and fucking mail that to the NALC headquarters. If you're ready to step up from that, hold a parking lot rally March 22nd on that Saturday where you hold a sign, fair contract now, before you clock into work. It is vital that you all take one step closer to the core and become the union that we deserve and that we need. Trump is a side issue because both parties, in my mind, do not represent the working class. What is at stake right now is the democracy of our union, and what we have right now in leadership is someone that thinks they could steer the ship. Bill the Fighting NALC went to the 2024 convention, and we fought for open bargaining. And one of the demands was side-by-side bargaining. And a lot of labor union leaders, NALC labor union leaders, were saying this would destroy our union if we had side-by-side bargaining. And as we clearly saw, our union's already destroyed. And we should be going forward at next year's convention with the constitutional amendment for side-by-side bargaining. Every week, we should have an update on what the post office brings forward and what the unions bringing forward and see what is happening. Because we can no longer afford these poverty wages, toxic work environments, and absolutely disgraceful working conditions. We are driving trucks that are killing people. We are walking routes that are killing people. It's a joke that we could bake cookies in our trucks in the middle of the summertime. And you know who doesn't care? Our business agents. Because if they cared, they would have been speaking up from day one, not waiting till after this has happened to jump ship and say, oh, my hands were tied. No, your hands were not tied. We vote you guys in. We have 200,000 members next year voting to kick Renfroe out. And we got to make sure we do, along with anyone else that supports Renfroe. So I am going to end this on that this is the Next Generation Carriers podcast. And we got to make sure that we have a next generation of an NALC that is actually going to fight for us and with us. We need to stand shoulder to shoulder, side by side as leaders and push forward and help other unions. It's not just our union. APWU is also in the same situation. The rural carriers also in the same situation. So from March 20 until March 23rd, you all should be talking to a coworker and then listening to them and empowering them to speak up. Because the workroom floor, the shop floor, is way more powerful than a union hall. The union hall is where the union dies. The shop floor is where the struggle continues, and that is how you build the union. There is no way that everyone could attend a union meeting. And when your union branch president or anyone says attend union meetings, ask them, can I attend on a Zoom meeting? 99% of branches don't have Zoom meetings. We need to change our structure to make it where the membership is empowered. Because as Corey Walton literally just said, our leadership is using fair tactics as an excuse on why he's weak and why he folded. We should not be folding. We should be daring to struggle, because the only way we can win is when we struggle and fight. If we lay down now, we're going to continue to lay down. And I'm going to end on that, and everyone have a good night.